What is up here today, YouTube? Jigsaw0097 bringing another Shaky Cam Sucks movie review. And this one's a little bit late, but I kind of wanted to think about it a bit because as you guys know, I'm a diehard Spider-Man fan. And so this was a movie that I was going to go into either loving or hating it. And I was a little surprised because honestly, like I don't love or hate it, but you know, I'll just say it right now. It's pretty good, guys. It's a pretty good Spider-Man movie. Shockingly good, honestly. I thought it was going to be a lot like Homecoming. And as you guys may or may not know, I am of course referring to Spider-Man Far From Home. It just released this past Independence Day weekend, 4th of July. I think it was like the Tuesday before that, like July 2nd when it released, but it was on that week. And I just got out of it like yesterday, so just kind of want to give my thoughts on it, guys. I've decided this is going to be a spoiler-heavy review because there's a lot of things in this movie that I want to talk about. So if you guys don't really like being spoiled, I would recommend going and watching the movie first before you watch this video. Final warning. All right, here we go. So we'll just start off with the trailers first, so not really any spoilers here. But as you guys probably saw in the trailers, Spider-Man's headed to Europe on a class trip. He goes, you know, far from home, and they show Mysterio in the trailer like he's gonna be a good guy. You know, if you've seen the comics though, you know you were kind of like suspecting, like, you know, this is bullcrap. We know what Mysterio is as comic readers. He's an actor, so him appearing as a good guy is honestly status quo for his character. He's supposed to be kind of like the chameleon, where you just never really know what's going on with him. I've always compared him to another one of my favorite villains from another one of my favorite heroes is Scarecrow from Batman. The whole point of Mysterio is to mess with Spider-Man, and that's kind of how Scarecrow is for Batman. He just messes with Batman. And they definitely had that in this movie, guys, which I absolutely loved. They had him just doing some classic Mysterio things, which was just great. But yeah, that's the premise, is they go over to Europe and there's all these like elementals attacking the city. The movie actually starts out where they're in like Mexico, and it's Nick Fury and Maria Hill, I think is her name. The Kobe Smulders from How I Met Your Mother actress, I think it's Maria Hill. They're over in Mexico investigating something, and they find out that Mysterio is like fighting this like sand elemental, and then that's like when the movie starts. So you get a little hint right there. And then they go to Europe and you find out there's like a water elemental, there's a fire elemental, there's a wind elemental. And you know, they have this meeting with Spider-Man and everyone else about how this is kind of like the hint at the multiverse, which I thought they were going to go towards anyway, but they talk about how this Mysterio came from a different reality, like a different version of Earth. And on his planet, these elementals have basically taken over. They've killed his family. They've killed everyone he loved. And so he's come over the dimensions to stop it from happening in our reality. And so that's kind of the premise. The beginning of the movie that's the premise. And you know, they focus a lot on this teen drama. I'll be honest with you guys, for the first 40 minutes of this movie, I kind of hated it. I was getting that feeling in my stomach like, oh crap, man, this is gonna be another Homecoming. It's gonna be another stupid high school teen drama. You know, just all this comedy that I don't like in the MCU, which they have in spades in this movie. By no means is this a perfect film, guys. If you like this teen crap, then you're gonna love the beginning of this movie, because it's like even more cheesed on, I think, in this movie than it was in Homecoming. But that's like the first 45 minutes is just the teen jokes, drama that's just, you know, doesn't really work for me. And then, you know, we find out about Mysterio and the elementals, and, you know, Mysterio is kind of presented as this like new Iron Man character. Like he's seen the stuff from the other worlds that that's destroying reality. And so he's kind of like the go-to guy for handling it here in this reality. But then the movie takes a shift, which I really like. This was a shock that I should have saw coming, but it came out of nowhere for me because I didn't know what kind of Mysterio they were going for. I didn't think they were going to just go straight up classic Mysterio. but they did, guys. So there's a scene in a bar where Peter Parker, you know, he starts to trust Mysterio. His name is Quentin Beck in the comics. It's also in the movie. He starts to trust Beck, and so he gives him these glasses. They introduce these. You've seen it if you've seen Infinity War. Tony Stark had these glasses that had this program in it called Edith. And that basically gives access to like his satellite drones and like all sorts of Stark tech. And Spider-Man was handed these down from Tony after he died in Endgame. But he starts to trust Quentin, and as the new Iron Man, he calls him. He's like, you know, I'm not Iron Man. I'm just a kid, so I'm going to trust these to you. And so he gives him these glasses, and right after Peter leaves the bar is when Mysterio just goes out of character completely. He just, you know, he says, got him, you know, and the act goes away. You just it's revealed that he's actually like this huge dick. He's been lying this whole time to everyone about these elementals, about everything. He was a disgruntled Stark employee that created some tech that was given to Tony called Barf, which I thought was pretty funny. That was given to Tony as like, it was for like augmented reality, like holograms, and Tony basically thought it was stupid, and so he like fired him over this because Beck just kept arguing with him about it. And so he's like pissed off. It's kind of the thing that's cool about what they're doing with these Spider-Man movies. I think they did this well with the Vulture too. I love that these are like characters that were like screwed over by Tony Stark. I always liked that twist on it, because, you know, if you guys remember, Vulture in Homecoming was screwed over by Tony. He was like the cleanup crew after the Avengers blew up New York in the first Avengers movie, and then they kind of like kicked them out. They're like, no, we don't want you guys cleaning this up. It's all classified garbage. And then in this one, it's another guy that got screwed over by Tony. So I really like that. In fact, this is probably just my bias towards Spider-Man, but I think these are the best MCU villains we've seen. I think Thanos is fine, but like these are just more of a personal level for me of what I want out of a villain. I always like the villain to challenge the hero directly instead of just being a villain that, you know, challenges the hero directly instead of all the heroes at once. So I really appreciated that aspect of it a lot. And so the way that they did Mysterio in this was just great. So once he's revealed, he gives like some exposition of like his plans about how he basically wants to use Stark Tech to become the new Iron Man, but he's going to do it like ruthlessly. He's going to kill who he has to kill, you know, whatever. He's basically blowing up Europe right now. He's got these drones inside of the holograms. That's what he uses to make the holograms, and he has to use them to destroy stuff to kind of like sell the illusion that there's actually like elementals destroying things. So he basically is willing to do whatever it takes to sell his illusion. You know, again, Mysterio was an actor in the comics, and so this is like perfect character development for him. This is like exactly what you expect, and one of the best scenes I've ever seen in a Spider-Man movie now, guys. Like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but one of the best scenes ever in a Spider-Man movie is when he directly messes with Spider-Man, Scarecrow style, where he's like using Tony Stark's death to taunt him. He's threatening his loved ones. He's basically making him fight through this illusion, and it's just great. It was so fantastic. The only gripe with it is I wish there was more scenes like that. There's really only one good scene like that, but they played it off perfectly. So yeah, seeing Mysterio mess with Spider-Man, that was really great to see, because, you know, they did the villain right. I've watched a lot of reviews where they complain that it was too similar to the comics, but I completely disagree with that, guys. If you like Mysterio, if you like Spider-Man, you're gonna really appreciate what they did here, because all bad things aside, this movie had the core of Spider-Man down a lot more than other movies, in my opinion. Now I'll get to my gripes real quick. Things that are still annoying, that were always annoying. You guys already know about the teen romance thing. I can't stand that. I really am just not liking this hot Aunt May thing. It bothered me in Homecoming, but it really bothered me in this one, and I don't like that she knows that he's Spider-Man, you know, talking about his spider tingle and all that, his Peter tingle or whatever. That was just stupid. And then also like Happy's hitting on her, and it's just like, where's Uncle Ben? Why is Uncle Ben just like a nothing in this movie? Why is Aunt May just a walking around? First of all, she's his aunt, which doesn't make sense because the way she acts like his mom. So I'm thinking, you know, maybe she was a single mom, but it's like, no, they call her Aunt May. So that means she was just an aunt that he went to, I guess. And maybe she was never married. I don't know what's going on. There's not enough backstory to explain why this Aunt May is the way she is. And it's getting pretty cringe for me to just see them continue to disrespect Uncle Ben's legacy in that way. That's just a personal gripe of mine. They're obviously going more for the Tony Stark is Uncle Ben in this story. During the one of the illusions, you know, it was, like I said before, they were using Tony Stark's memory. They pulled up like his gravestone and had him come back as like a zombie. So they're showing that they're using the death of Tony Stark to taunt with Spider-Man, which is exactly how villains would use Uncle Ben's death when they found out who he was. So didn't really like that. I don't like his sidekick Ned. I've never liked that. I would, if it was me, I would just remove the character completely, because it doesn't look like Harry Osborn is even in this at all. Who knows? Maybe they're going to introduce him later in the movies. But I really don't like that Harry Osborn is just like a no-show in these movies so far. And, you know, he was always the best friend of Peter. He was the sidekick, even though he didn't know Peter's identity. Sidekick turned villain. That's one of the great things about Spider-Man, is a lot of the villains start out as his friend, his mentor, and then they end up becoming his villain later on. Which they kind of did with Mysterio, you know. Peter started to trust him, and then he turned on him. And then let's see what else. Some of Tom Holland's mannerisms I still don't really like as Spider-Man. Like, I don't really like how meek he is, you know, how much he looks up to Tony Stark. That's a big one for me, and they're starting to lean away with it, thank goodness. But the Tony Stark stuff is kind of getting annoying, because, you know, he builds his suit in the ship. He builds his new suit, and they play like Back in Black from AC/DC, I think, again, and you know, it's like, that's Iron Man's theme. That's not Peter Parker. You know, I'm kind of tired of him. You know, Tony Stark is gone. I can't do this without Tony Stark. It's like, you're doing kind of the Uncle Ben thing with Tony, which is fine, but it's like, Peter Parker did not rely on Uncle Ben to become Spider-Man. He just used his dying words as motivation to become Spider-Man, and I wish they would do that more with Tom Holland. Like, you know, maybe Tony dying in Avengers would just be like his motivation to be a better hero, instead of them constantly like focusing on the fact that, you know, the whole suit thing in general is annoying to me, because it's like, he invented all of his stuff in the comics, and in this it's like everything is Stark tech, guys. He would not be Spider-Man without Tony Stark. It's almost like Tony Stark was made, like, took this kid and made him into what he wanted him to be. And I guess that's the angle they're going for, but I personally don't like it. It's not the Peter Parker that I know and love. You know, they did show off a lot of his smarts in this one, but at the end of the day, he's just using Stark tech to build stuff, which is, you know, it's all there for him. He's basically like a trust fund baby. Part of the thing with Peter Parker is that, you know, he's broke and like the world's against him. But those are my big three things, gripes. But there's something that happens at the end of this movie, guys, that I want to close the video on. And this is what, in my opinion, it actually redeemed a lot of the faults, because it's setting up for what I think Spider-Man could really do well at in this universe. And that is the mid-credit scene. There's actually 2 credit scenes. But the mid-credit scene, after he's back in New York, he swings Zendaya, you know, MJ, whatever you want to call her, around the city. And you know, she didn't like it, which I thought was kind of funny, because all of Spider-Man's girlfriends before kind of like enjoyed doing it, but she was just like, nope, I don't like that. But then right after that happens, you know, because Spider-Man, I'll just kind of retread a little, sorry. At the end of the movie, Spider-Man confronts Mysterio, and this is when his spider sense comes into play finally. Like, he finally learns how to control it, and he uses that to defeat Mysterio. So Mysterio technically dies, and so what happens at the end of the movie is that this screen pops up while they're in New York, and on the screen, guys, this had me the most giddy in the theater. You had J.K. Simmons show up as JJJ, again, Triple J, J. Jonah Jameson, whatever you want to call him. And he was like, you know, breaking news, Mysterio posts video of Spider-Man orchestrating attack. You know, it was like great. It was all the stuff JJJ would do, because he just hates Spider-Man. And I guess so when Mysterio died, he made all this video footage together to make it look like Peter Parker was the cause of it instead of him, of the elementals and the holograms and all that stuff. And so he posted this video up, and he reveals that Spider-Man is Peter Parker, and this is going on in the city. So the city knows that he's Peter Parker now, guys. Normally that would annoy me, but the way that this Spider-Man is heading, I kind of like that now the city knows, and he's gonna have to go through some serious crap in the next movies, because you know the city's against him. That's something that I've always liked about Spider-Man, is it's like a 50-50, like half the city likes him, half the city hates him. You know, J. Jonah Jameson kind of has this like dedicated following that hates Spider-Man through like his social media, and that's something that's cool too, is they called it like a dailybugle.net or something like that, and they're kind of doing like the modern age, like he's like an Alex Jones or something. He's going to be using the internet to like spread lies about Spider-Man and all this stuff, and this is like the start of it. So the city already hates him, and the movie like literally ends right there. So I'm like, wow, that was pretty nuts. And that was great, because the next movie he's going to really struggle, guys. It's going to be like a movie about, you know, how is he going to go to high school now? How's he going to do all this stuff? He's going to really start questioning being Spider-Man and all this stuff, the responsibility that's thrown on him. And I thought that was great. So that was the end of the Spider-Man. And then they also showed that like Nick Fury was actually some krill from Captain Marvel, which I didn't really care about. Whatever, that was like a twist that I didn't care about, but it happened. But that really is what I have to say, guys. This is a pretty long video compared to my normal videos, and I kind of just rambled on, but I wanted to get through the points that I liked. Bottom line, this is a lot more Spider-Man than Homecoming was, in my opinion. And as someone that loved the Andrew Garfield and the Tobey Maguire movies like to death, I think that this is heading in the right direction, and I'm on board with Tom Holland Spider-Man in the future. It's to the point where honestly I could give a crap about the MCU at this point. All I want to see now is more Spider-Man, because that's my hero, and they're getting him on track. I read something like Tom Holland signed on for like 9 movies after this one, so they're gonna have like tons of Spider-Man going forward. I don't know if that's like true or not, but they're basically, that was the reason why they cast so young this time, is because they really want this guy to be like the next Downey Jr., Tom Holland, where he's gonna be the role for like 10 plus years, as long as they can do it. So anyway, guys, that's my review of Spider-Man Far From Home. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I'd love to hear your opinions on the movie. Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Whatever. I'd like to hear it. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button as well, as I'll be doing movie reviews going forward on the channel as well. And I've got several other reviews to check out if you'd like to. But to all my returning viewers, thank you so much for watching. This has been Jigsaw0097. I will talk to you all later.